You see it happen all the time, right? Online, in communities,
Oh, constant.
a crucial movement gets going, it has all this momentum, and then, bam, it just hits a wall.
Usually an internal wall.
Exactly. A disagreement over policy, or who gets resources, or even just, generational clash, and the whole thing just fractures.
It's such an energy drain, and you see so many brilliant Black youth who feel like they have to go it alone
Right.
because the very groups that should be their allies are caught up in conflict. We're talking class divides, colorism, that ongoing tension between the diaspora and the continent.
It's agonizing to watch. And the thing is, this fracturing isn't new. It's not random.
Not at all. It's the oldest play in the colonial book, Divide and Rule.
The oldest play.
Oppressive powers, they rarely needed overwhelming force. They just needed to make sure a unified resistance could never actually form.
If you keep people arguing over tactics, they never get to the root problem.
Exactly. The division itself becomes the existential threat.
And that's where Haile Selassie I comes in. He understood that to counter an existential threat, you needed an existential strategy.
For him, Pan-African unity wasn't some soft, hopeful idea. It was a rigorous survival strategy, the only way to fight a common enemy.
It flips the whole script from divide and rule to
unite and live free.
that reframes everything. So before we get into his blueprint, just take a second to think about this. Where in your life do you see people who should be on the same team?
Tearing each other down instead of building together?
That's our mission for this deep dive, looking at the strategic vision of Haile Selassie I.
Emperor of Ethiopia, a figure who, to this day, just symbolizes Black freedom and organized resistance around the globe.
He was born to Faria Makonnen way back in 1892, and by 1930 he's crowned emperor.
Taking that incredible throne name, Haile Selassie I, power of the Trinity.
So you have this 20th century monarch trying to modernize an ancient nation while staring down, global fascism.
And his early moves were so strategic, he was positioning Ethiopia to be a modern sovereign nation.
Which meant internal reforms.
Big ones. Centralizing the state, introducing a constitution in 1931, and crucially, abolishing slavery in the early 40s.
And those weren't just ethical moves, were they?
No, they were political. They were designed to strengthen Ethiopia on the world stage, to prove it belonged.
But there's a tension there, right? An emperor leading a monarchy when revolution is sweeping the globe. How did he balance that?
That's the tightrope walk. He had to be a pragmatist. He was essentially taking the spirit of Marcus Garvey's vision.
That vision of Black pride, of self-reliance.
Yes, and elevating it to the level of statecraft. Garvey gave the community a vision, and Selassie provided a living, breathing government to prove it was possible.
Which brings us to that idea of unity as love in motion.
I love that phrase.
It's powerful. It says love isn't just a feeling, it's work. It's the discipline to stand side by side for something bigger than yourself.
And that commitment was about to be tested, brutally.
The flashpoint.
1935.
Mussolini's Italy invades Ethiopia.
And Ethiopia was one of the last independent African nations. Suddenly, it's standing almost completely alone against a modern, mechanized empire.
It must have been devastating.
It was. Selassie was forced into exile. But he didn't just disappear.
No, he takes his fight to the one place that was supposed to care. The League of Nations.
In Geneva, 1936. Can you just imagine that scene?
The emperor of a small, besieged African nation standing before all these European powers.
Many of whom were just looking the other way. He wasn't there to beg. He was there to deliver a warning.
And a verdict on their failure.
His message was so clear and so prophetic. He said, look, this isn't just about Ethiopia. An attack on one small nation is a threat to all small nations.
And then he gives that iconic line, "It is us today, it'll be you tomorrow."
Chilling. He was forcing them to see that their inaction would have consequences. But the League
failed. Completely.
And that failure taught Selassie the most painful lesson of his life.
That isolation is fatal. That no African state was safe as long as it stood alone.
Exactly. So when the Allies finally defeat Italy and he returns in 1941, his entire focus has shifted.
He knows Africa has to build its own structure.
It has to. And he makes it his life's work. Which brings us to 1963.
Addis Ababa. He hosts 32 African heads of state.
And together they found the Organization of African Unity, the OAU.
This was the direct answer to the failure in Geneva.
It was. He said it himself. History teaches us that unity is strength. This was unity with teeth, with a commitment to mutual defense.
This really makes you think about a time you felt alone in a fight. What changed when just one or two people stood with you? It changes the entire dynamic.
And that OAU blueprint is a perfect model of Garvey's principle. Unity is the one thing we must desire to accomplish if we intend to succeed.
Let's break that down with Garvey's framework.
Yeah.
Head, heart, and hands.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's start with the head, the mindset. What's so amazing about that OAU meeting is who was in the room?
Oh, the ideologies were all over the map.
You had radical revolutionaries like Kwame Nkrumah from Ghana.
What? Who wanted a United States of Africa, like yesterday.
Right. And then you have these very cautious, conservative leaders and monarchs who wanted to take it slow.
These weren't just disagreements. These were fundamentally opposed blocs. The radical Casablanca bloc and the more conservative Monrovia bloc.
So how did he get them to agree on anything?
That was the strategic genius. The mindset shift he created was this: agree on the non-negotiable goal.
Which was protecting continental sovereignty.
That's it. You can argue about the pace, you can argue about the policy, but we have to agree to stand together against outside threats. He compromised on the how to make sure they all got there together.
So then the heart, the purpose. It was bigger than just Ethiopia for him.
Much bigger. It was about liberation for Africans everywhere. He was a fierce, vocal critic of apartheid in South Africa, of racial discrimination anywhere it showed up.
And that led to another famous speech, right? At the UN, also in 1963.
Yes, a powerful address against racial inequality.
The very speech that inspired Bob Marley's song, War.
That's right. Until the philosophy which holds one race superior and another inferior
Is finally and permanently discredited and abandoned. It's taking that divide and rule logic and turning it inside out.
to unite and live free.
Okay, so finally, the hands, the concrete action.
That was the OAU itself, a real institution. It committed countries to cooperation, to mutual defense. It meant they could negotiate as a single, powerful bloc.
That's where unity stops being a nice slogan and becomes actual power.
But think about the tension. Garvey was often critical of monarchies. Selassie was a monarch.
An emperor.
That disagreement could have been a deal breaker, but it teaches us that the shared purpose has to be bigger than ideology. Compromise is the price of continental power.
Which is a huge lesson for today, especially when that philosophy of superiority he warned us about is finding new ways to divide people.
Let's go back to that quote from his speech, the one Marley used.
That piece will be a fleeting illusion.
Until that philosophy of racial superiority is gone for good.
Well, that philosophy hasn't disappeared.
What?
It's gone digital, it's been modernized.
We're in the intelligence era now. We're talking about encoded racism, algorithmic bias.
Right. Systems, whether it's for policing or credit scores or even hiring.
That are built on biased data. And so they just reproduce those same historical hierarchies. It's the old racism just disguised as objective data.
It's a new, more subtle divide and rule.
Absolutely. So his demand wasn't for better tech. It was for the philosophy itself to be abandoned.
So we have to fight this division in the digital world, just like he fought it in the political one.
Which brings us to a challenge, a concrete action based on Selassie's vision.
And the challenge for you this week is this. Build one bridge.
Just one. Choose one person or one group that you normally keep your distance from.
Could be a different clique on campus, a neighbor from another generation, someone who has a totally different approach to a goal you both share.
And do one concrete thing together. Start a study circle. Plan a joint event. Have a structured debate. Something.
If unity is love in motion, then what's one act of love you can take this week that forces you to work with someone different, to choose alignment over preference?
Because Selassie's life shows us that unity is power, but you have to build it brick by brick.
And that means inclusive leadership, welcoming different views, and always prioritizing the shared vision.
And you can't talk about his impact without mentioning the Rastafari movement.
Of course. For them, emerging in Jamaica in the 1930s, this black monarch standing up to fascism, he was seen as a messianic figure.
The fulfillment of prophecy, a symbol of black liberation.
So his legacy leaves us all with a pretty profound question.
If compromise is the price of power, who is willing to pay it? Who will accept the responsibility of being a builder of unity?
Instead of just benefiting from someone else's courage.
That's the daily work, strategic unity.
And that work continues. Next week, we're going to stay with this lineage of resistance. We're diving into the life of Nelson Mandela.
Specifically, focusing on his endurance without bitterness. The unbelievable perseverance it took to lead a nation toward peace after everything he went through.
Keep learning, keep building those bridges.
Turn that division into power. We'll see you next time for the Deep Dive.